Good morning. It is a beautiful Sunday morning here in San Diego. It is the last week of July, and it's time for breakfast update number 1. Today, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the history with Cold Barbies and how it came to be and what it is and what the aspirations and the plans are for Cold Barbies. I gotta get that coffee going. So that's what we're doing. But in the meantime, we're gonna also cook breakfast because it's what I do on Sundays, baby. Sunday fun day. Here, what do we got? Some eggs. Always need eggs. Some cheese. Some pork chops. I see some tomatoes. I want some spinach. I need butter. We're not animals. Alright. Sweet. So, how far would I have to go back to think about the first piece of where Cold Barbies came to be? I want to say this would have been a little over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I'm in a kind of like a metal recording project with my wife called Dear Apollo. And our interest levels in the project would vary all the time. Sometimes she would be the one that was interested, and sometimes I would be the one that, was extremely into it. And it was very rare that they would sync up and we would both be interested at the same time. And so the motivation, for it kind of came and went from time to time. And when I was in one of those highly motivated states and she was in one of those lulls, there was a documentary that I saw. It's called Sound City. And it's a great documentary. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite things I've ever seen ever. And it's about a recording studio in Los Angeles called Sound City that recorded a whole bunch of really famous records over the course of a long time. Let's say the 70s through the 90s. And, one of those was like Rage Against the Machine, Nevermind album. Those were the ones that kind of happened in the 90s, and that was their resurgence. Well, I don't want to talk about just that documentary, but I saw it, and one of the things that was in it was, Dave Grohl, footage of him kind of recording the first Foo Fighters record. And if you don't know, he did that by himself. He didn't have a band yet, and I imagine it has to do with his way of kind of getting over the whole Kurt thing. And I'll get that later. And I kind of thought to myself, watching that I could do that. That's totally something that's possible for me. I could write music and record it by myself. Actually, I think when Cold Barbies started in my head, I wasn't going to record it. It was just going to be something where I wrote a bunch of music and then went on to have it recorded. I think my first thing was like, hey, I'll write 4 or 5 songs I like and then put out an EP. And that was the plan. And that changed as I started writing songs. Because I realized, first off, I should say, at that time, I had written a lot of music, but never any lyrics, and I had never done any vocals. So that was all kind of new ground for me, was, jumping into that world of being the vocalist as well, and not just writing for a vocalist. I'll get that later. So that was new ground, and that was the most challenging, and still is the most challenging part of it, because I think the music aspect comes really easy to me, and I don't typically struggle with that, but you know, being a good vocalist is really hard, and it's not something I ever practiced. I didn't sing when I was a kid. I didn't sing as an adult. There was no training. I will give a shout out. I remember like doing the very first song. I wrote the first song right after watching this documentary. My excitement level was at 100, and I was like, I gotta write a song tonight, even though I had never done that. And that's exactly what I tried to do. I sat down, pen and paper. I wrote out some lyrics, and I wrote this song. And it wasn't really bad, but it definitely didn't sound how I thought it would sound, because everything I had ever written up to that point in my life was some form of metal or hard rock, and it was really interesting to see that, given the opportunity to just write something and not have any particular plans for how it needed to sound, or any genre that was going to define it to something, it was free. It was this free experience of like, oh, I'm just writing whatever I want right now, and this is really cool. And if I had to compare it to something, it probably sounded like a Hoobastank song. And I don't know, that was the first thing that came out. Well, then I go on to, write another song, and it doesn't sound anything like that whatsoever. It kind of had this country rock vibe going on, and I think it was really early on, and those first couple of songs before there was a name, before it was Cold Barbies or anything like that, that I realized that I was really gonna like this songwriting thing, and that the idea of it being, so freeing and so kind of borderless and genreless, like that was the exciting part for me. That was the part of it that I liked so much. So I decided early on, hey, what if I did not have a sound? What if I did not stick to something? What if I just put out all this music? And at that point, that's when the plan started coming together. But mind you, I still couldn't sing. So that was a whole thing. I had built a vocal booth in this house that I had been living in, and it was for our project Dear Apollo with my wife, and it was for her to sing in and not me. And this whole thing, I was like, oh, I gotta get in here, I gotta try this. And I'm not exaggerating when I say, like, I would write these big choruses that in my head I could sing, and then I would get in there and kind of quickly realize that I am not the singer in real life that I am in my head. Because in my head, I'm all my favorite singers. And, and it's a humbling experience, because something, like when you're a guitarist, drummer, anything like that, at the end of the day, it's this instrument, and once you learn how to play it, you know how to play it. But something, it changes when it's your voice, because it's part of you, and it can change from day to day. So that thing you did on Monday, you might not be able to do on Thursday, and it takes consistent practice. And the place that I was living, this wasn't an option. You can't just be singing full volume in your house, and that's just going to be okay, because it's absolutely not. Thus starts the path to trying to get to a point where I can sing at least well enough for a recording. And I really made a true effort to start singing in my car constructively, instead of just singing in my car. I was like working on techniques, and I went down that wormhole that I think every probably new vocalist does, like going through YouTube videos and trying to find tips and how to do this, how to do this. I went down that path, and I will plug Mr. Chris Liepe. I think that's how you say his name. Vocal instructor. When I found that guy's YouTube, he probably had about 1,000 subscribers, and now, rightfully so, he's well over 100,000 because he puts out an absolutely fantastic product. But he helped me more so than anything with his video on kind of finding your mix voice, and that can't thank him enough for that. So if you're a vocalist trying to figure out how to either extend your range or be a little bit more comfortable singing higher, I don't really have a high register voice, so kind of limited to what I can do, but that definitely helped. So anyway, singing in my car, all is well. Definitely needs to get lowered. I'm writing songs. I was the general manager at a restaurant at the time when this was all going down, and I was working like 3 13-hour days a week, and I had 4 days off. And during that time, I would write a song the first day. I'd start recording all the instruments the second day, and I would record the vocals the third day, and then the fourth day I would edit and mix the whole song. And then I'd go back to work. And I did this for months. And after a while, I started to get into the flow of it, and the music started becoming the really easy part. It was like being able to write a song, being able to get it done. That part started really accelerating because it's repetition. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And I started finding all these different ways to write songs. Like, I didn't need to approach it the same way every time. It wasn't like I had to sit down and get a lyric before I could do it, or get a guitar riff. It turned into 10 different, like 1,000 different ways that you could kind of get a song started. And then that's when I started thinking, oh man, what if I started sharing this, this knowledge that I'm learning and I'm figuring out? What if that was part of Cold Barbies as well? What if I put this music out through a YouTube platform? I put it out online, but I'm not a band. I don't play live. I just write and record music. And then I also do a channel about, songwriting and all the different parts to it. Because we all know, like, nowadays, people can write and record music at a high level, like a good quality, in a bedroom on a very low budget. And our first single, The Puppet, was, I'd say, overcooked. Everything's overcooked. The first single, The Puppet, it was like the 5th song I wrote and recorded, and it was during that time, 2 years ago, during working at the restaurant, having those days off, and I said this in my Inside the Mix video on The Puppet, but that was the first song that I really felt like, hey, I like the sound of this. I feel like I hit something unique to me. So, and it didn't make me want to go a particular direction with the sound, but it was just, I don't know, rewarding. It was like, oh, I like this. This is interesting, And if we fast forward a bit, I changed professions. I ended up working as a music teacher about a year and a half later at an after school place, and I start, you know, meeting the like my coworkers, and I see these different people, and I run into this guy named Eric. He's an awesome piano player, and he was looking for something to do musically, creatively, and I played him the demo for the puppet, which I had recorded, you know, almost 2 years earlier. He was into it. He was like, yeah, this is sweet. I like it. Let's do something. But then I moved into the hell house. That's the only way I can describe it. Moved into this house. It was in a very, very bad neighborhood. Everybody has, you know, gates guarding their front yard and barred windows, and I shared walls with the neighbors. So this whole train of like things were going well, it all started coming to a quick like, oh no, how is this going to work at this new place? And I lived there for like 6 or 7 months, and during that time, Eric would come over like once a week. I would cook him breakfast, and we would sit down for like 3 hours and kind of jam an idea out and see if we could get something going, and then I would work on it for the rest of the week, and we'd see where we were at. And most of the time, whatever idea we got, it typically was a song by the end of the week. And that's kind of why I'm excited for this month's release, Jacuzzi, because this is the first song me and Eric did together, ever. It was the first song we ever wrote, and I remember the exact moment when it happened. He was sitting there. I had played a guitar riff, and it was something I had come up with sitting on the toilet, probably, just playing guitar, and I said, put some piano to this, and I told him what the chords were, and he started playing it, and I was like, oh, I don't like that setting. You know, maybe we could find something more like this, you know? And then we stumbled across this kind of funky, like Fender Rhodes style thing, and all of a sudden we were just writing a funk song, and it was like, oh, this is awesome, I love this. And the funk song turned into a rock song, which kind of borderline turned into a metal song. And, you know, it took that person, like the right person, to be open-minded enough to say like, yep, I like this too. And that was Eric. And if it wasn't for that, you know, he wouldn't be part of this project, because that's the whole thing, is like, can we write music with no boundaries, no borders, no limitations, no genre, no anything, and put it out? Well, that's what Cold Barbies is. That's what it plans to be. I want this to be a place where you can find interesting music that changes every single month. Hopefully I can stick to getting a single out every single month, mixing it, getting it mastered, getting some kind of video out, all that stuff. It's pretty tough while working, but so far so good. Month 2, I already know what I'm going to record for month 3. And can I eventually get something going where all this stuff that's going on inside the house, and all this information about songwriting, can I get it out to you guys? That's what I hope. So maybe if we're looking back on this video in a year, hopefully things are well developed and we're on that path, and I have 200 videos out about songwriting, and everyone loves Cold Barbies. And if not, that's fine. But when we ask, what is Cold Barbies? That's Cold Barbies. That's what it is. Hey, I almost forgot to say, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to us, Cold Barbies. and we'll have more stuff for you coming soon. Jacuzzi, July 31st. Don't miss it.